Great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. This is Karen Mueller from Horan, and I just wanted to make a brief introduction. Jay Kempton with the Kempton Group, who has been helpful in helping us with some of these direct contracts and some of the, having gone through some of these issues before, we kind of leaned on Jay and his team for their expertise in helping us roll out some of these programs. What we had talked about in our Midwest meeting, and also in our Power Pack, or now our Perspective, was just trying to learn a little bit more about how Horan actually accomplished some of these direct contracts with some of our local providers. So again, Jay, I'll turn it over to you and your team if you kind of want to walk us through and give us a little bit of background on the Kempton Group, and then also how you helped us accomplish some of our goals here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Karen, and good morning, UBA. We really appreciate Karen and Steve for the invite to speak to you all this morning. Just back up one slide here, Megan. Thank you. So a little background on the Kempton Group. We are a full service TPA. We specialize really in all forms of self-funding. We work with networks. We are doing more and more reference-based pricing. But the thing that really has me speaking to you all today is we're really a leader in direct free market contracting with medical providers. And free market contracting is just a fancy way of saying we encourage medical providers to have direct contracts with as many people as they possibly can. We also promote the concept of them advertising their services and being transparent with their services, and constructing bundles whenever possible that are easy to compare, easy to buy, and easy to understand. Back in 2011, when this was really when this direct contracting program really kind of got off the ground. We had been doing direct contracting for many years, being in the business for 50 years. We certainly predated managed care and PPO networks, et cetera. So we did have direct relationships with a lot of medical providers. But as you all know, by 2011, really a lot longer, way before that, the network contract had really kind of dominated the relationship between the buyer and the seller. And I like to refer to it as a buyer and seller because our clients, your self-funded employers, they are buyers of healthcare goods and services. And so the relationship between that buyer and seller was strained through a third party, and probably, and that third party was not always working on behalf of the buyer or the seller. More often than not, they were really working for the seller, which was a disadvantage to our customers. The PPO networks really, through the years, anytime that we were approached by a medical provider or my claims department, said, "My gosh, we just got this claim in, and it looks really out of line. This is way outside the boundaries of what we've normally paid for this," and we find out it was a network provider. We would learn that all our ability to manage that claim and go back to the provider and say, "Hey, this just doesn't look reasonable." Well, if it was a network provider and that price was strained through a network contract, our hands were really tied. So in 2011, things changed for us pretty dramatically. Some of you all may have heard of Surgery Center of Oklahoma and Dr. Keith Smith, but Surgery Center of Oklahoma is about 3 miles down the road from our TPA's headquarters. And we were introduced to Dr. Smith back in 2011. What he had been doing for a few years, really to not a lot of fanfare, was he had posted his pricing at the Surgery Center of Oklahoma on their website. But it was only, I said, to not a lot of fanfare, because it was really only for what he termed as a cash buyer. So he was expecting that to be somebody that could come into the waiting room and peel off $100 bills and pay for a hysterectomy or a knee scope right there at the counter. His best pricing was reserved for his website. It was his best pricing. It was also bundled. Anything and everything that would have been needed for that medical procedure was inside of that bundle. Anesthesia, facility, surgeon's charge, if there was pathology, whatever, it was already pre-negotiated by him for maximum competitiveness, and it was put on his website. It wasn't until he and I met that he really discovered that the self-insured or the self-funded world, if you strip away the carrier and the ASO contract restrictions, that a self-funded employer really is kind of the ultimate cash buyer. But most medical providers are not able to do business with our self-funded employers because, again, of all these contractual restrictions. But in 2011, we started doing business with Surgery Center of Oklahoma. We built a benefit tier for our clients that just paid the pricing at 100%. So we built a 100% benefit tier and went out to our clients and said, we've compared Surgery Center of Oklahoma pricing to what we've been historically paying through the networks at some of the big hospital systems. And we believe that if you would adopt this language into your plan document, this 100% benefit tier, if your patients choose to have their surgery at Surgery Center of Oklahoma, we think we could save a ton of money, because in some of these situations, it's 50, 60, 70% less than the network discounted amount at the big hospital. 100% of our TPA clients adopted that suggestion. Again, we were able to show them the savings, and it was a wonderful thing. That happened in 2011. What we didn't anticipate happening, though, was what happened next, and that was when, even though we're not a giant TPA, we have about, back then we had about 10,000 employee lives under management. It was enough, we caused enough of a ripple in the Oklahoma City market. Again, patients were voluntarily choosing to have their procedure, their voluntary and elective case management and utilization reviewed procedure at Surgery Center of Oklahoma. That sent a signal to the healthcare marketplace in Oklahoma, and next thing we knew, our phone started ringing from other medical providers. First off, they wanted to know what was happening. The networks then called and threatened to sue us and everything else. And we were simply able to say, hey, we're not breaking the PPO contract here. It's just Surgery Center of Oklahoma has this deal, and your patients are just choosing not to have their procedure done at a network hospital. They're choosing to have it done at this cash facility, and it's saving a ton of money. But by 2012, 2013, we had about 5 medical providers that had stepped up and said, we want to compete with Surgery Center of Oklahoma by offering bundled cash pricing for what they were able to offer. And the second provider that did this was actually a full service inpatient orthopedic hospital. So all of a sudden we started having spinal procedures and all manner of joint replacements on a bundled cash basis. The third medical provider that stepped up and said, hey, we would like to offer you bundled cash pricing if you can pay us, again, make it look like cash. So it needs to be very quick payment. We try to pay them within about 5 days after we get the bill. And there's no patient responsibility. So they're not chasing, they have no bad debt, they have no collections concerns whatsoever. But this third facility happened to be an inpatient cardiac hospital. It's Oklahoma Heart Hospital here in Oklahoma City. It is the regional leader in our part of the world for cardiac care. So we were really stunned that this program, this idea might have legs. And so Dr. Smith and I decided we were going to form the Free Market Medical Association in 2014 to try to spread this concept or this phenomenon that we had experienced in Oklahoma City. How do we get, because we had a mission, we wanted to try to change healthcare for the better without government intervention, without really kind of a grassroots market-based reform. And so the mission of the Free Market Medical Association was essentially to create as many competitors for Surgery Center of Oklahoma and the Kempton Group as we possibly could by sharing kind of our best practices and what we had learned. By 2014, we actually had, and this is again why we're on the phone today, is we got a request from a larger employer here in Oklahoma City. It was an employer with about just under 2,000 employees. They were a Blue Cross and Blue Shield ASO customer. They had seen what was happening with our clients. And they said, we would like to, first off, they went to Blue Cross and said, hey, we would like to, Blue Cross would like you to administer and basically provide this benefit level for our clients. And we'd like to buy from Surgery Center of Oklahoma and Oklahoma Heart. And of course, Blue Cross said, well, they're already network providers. And so, we're not going to take advantage of their cash deal. We're not going to waive deductibles. So it was a real impediment. And so we got that phone call next. This client called us and said, we would like you to figure out a way where we can access this free market bundled pricing because we think it could save us a lot of money and it can provide a great benefit to our employees. And of course, I was really excited because I thought, well, I'm going to get to bid on their TPA business. And they said, well, no, not so fast. For political reasons, we're going to need to stay with Blue Cross. We just want you to figure out how you can add or bolt on this concept and you just be our TPA for these free market providers and we'll leave Blue Cross in place. That was kind of a tall order, but with the help of our in-house ERISA counsel and now the FIA group, we were able to figure out how to do that. So that happened in 2014. Now we go around the country speaking to TPAs. We've spoken at SIA, SIA, SPBA, HCAA, different medical groups around the country on the promotion of this program. We've also succeeded in creating competitors. So we're not the only ones that are doing this, but we feel like that we were the originators and we do it better than anyone else. We've also seen, as you see there, they're on the now on the right-hand side of the screen. We still, however, see that few TPAs embrace this concept. We're starting to see kind of other third parties, e-commerce companies, et cetera, starting to get into this space. But most of those really lack the ERISA and the benefits knowledge that you all expect and that we pride ourselves on. They really kind of fashion themselves as kind of a healthcare Amazon. And as you all know, it's not really that easy. Buying benefits through a tax-advantaged welfare plan does require some compliance acumen. And so that's what we feel that we bring to the table for this concept. Just a brief summary. So this is, as of now, what started off with one facility at Surgery Center of Oklahoma. I gave you the example of what happened when the second and the third provider reached out to us. We're doing business now with over 120, what we call KPP-free. We had to come up with a name for this concept. We call it KPP-free because it is free to the patients and saves the clients a ton of money. We have over 120 locations that are doing this. We have 3 in Cincinnati. We have 2,500 imaging centers, which are actually not even on the map because it gets very busy on the map, that provide high-end imaging at a very attractive cash rate. We have over 100 providers in 20 states that would love to offer us bundled cash pricing, but at least at this time, we don't have any buyers for them because we don't have any clients in that area, and we're hoping that folks like UBA can help us with that. So we have supply, but in some situations we don't have demand. And in other areas we might have demand, but not a lot of supply because maybe there aren't any independent ASCs that are willing to do, for instance, what Beacon Ortho has done. We're doing over 1,000 services a month we are redirecting away from some of the inefficient, low-value providers to these high efficiency providers. So it's a big part of what we do. I don't know that there's anybody else that's doing the magnitude of free market redirections that we're doing. So what's the problem? What's keeping this program and this concept from really exploding? Well, like I mentioned earlier, it really has to do with there's a lot of contractual restrictions. Obviously, the status quo in healthcare is very interested in maintaining the status quo. So there's few TPAs that embrace direct provider contracting. Most of the time, the reason that we hear is that they have some sort of a gag order or a contractual restriction through a carrier-based rental network, or actually you may have an integrated ASO network. They all have restrictions on direct contracting. Because of that, obviously clients don't have any ability to direct contract. You might have a business owner that plays golf with a facility manager, and they say, hey, if you could pay us quick and waive all patient responsibility, man, we could sharpen our pencil. And that might be a great deal. You may go back to your HR and your analytics or your consultant, and they may look at it and say, yeah, it's a great deal. We ought to take this. But the next thing you know, you're going to run into the buzzsaw of a contractual restriction, which is very ironic. I know you all probably have dealt with this. The irony is that your cost containment apparatus that you have currently in place happens to be impairing your ability to contain costs. That also leads to not a lot of free market providers in the local area. If there are no employers demanding bundled upfront cash pricing or demanding open and transparent competition, then the medical providers are going to be reluctant to offer that. It's kind of a chicken or the egg type of scenario. The KPPFree Bolt-On program, though it does seek to fill that gap, really what it does is when an employer adopts the KPPFree Bolt-On program, it creates, again, that 100% free benefit tier to the employees, where if they choose to have a procedure done at one of these pre-qualified free market bundled providers, they can get that surgery at no cost to them. As a TPA, we make sure that that pricing is good enough that it is ultimately going to save the employer way more than what the cost is of waiving the deductible and the co-insurance. But really, the first step in getting both parties off the sideline, the supply and the demand, is the thing that we have control over, the thing that Horan has control over and the UBA team has control over, is building some demand, and that has to happen through the benefit plan. So an example, not to belabor this, but I know you all probably have seen this type of stuff. A lot of the network contracts, this is what they look like. Many of them are proprietary. They have confidential terms. The pricing is confidential and proprietary. We view it very strongly that if the consultant or the employer, the plan sponsor, saw some of the deals that were cut, they would be very worried about, is this causing me a fiduciary problem? Because I'm paying $400 for something that costs 50 cents. But you're never going to know that because you're never going to see the deal. You may see the result of the deal, but you won't see the deal ahead of time. And some of the restrictive language that I'm talking about, this is from a typical, quote, high performance network. Just real quick, the TPA nor the employer shall not solicit or allow any third party on its behalf to solicit any network provider to create a direct relationship with the provider for the purpose of providing healthcare services to participants, not only during the term of this agreement, but also 2 years after. For my TPA clients, we will not sign agreements like this. And so we do everything that we can to try to redirect patients out of the network. And of course, you can also imagine that we're embracing reference-based pricing at every turn. And free market bundled providers in conjunction with an RBP plan really is a hand in a glove. But for the client out there that is either with an ASO carrier or maybe it's an independent TPA that has these contractual restrictions, the bolt-on is the solution that can help get around some of these restrictions. So here's a little overview of the bolt-on. First off, it's not a replacement for, I'm just going to use the term primary plan, and that would be the main benefit plan that is administered by either the ASO or the independent TPA with the contractual restrictions. It does not replace that plan. It runs alongside the existing self-funded plan. It is similar to the idea of an employer that decides that they're going to go ahead and self-fund maybe a self-funded vision program or a self-funded dental program, and they're not going to run that through their main TPA. They're going to go ahead and have a separate TPA do that, or maybe they're going to self-administer it, and they have a little plan document for that, for those ancillary benefits. That's really what we're doing. It's integrated, yet it is autonomous. The bolt-on program has its own plan document. It has its own TPA, which would be the Kempton Group. The current TPA or network contracts are not affected. The plan can work. I mean, if you wanted to line up all 9 planets into like the perfect ultimate alignment, it would be nice if the primary TPA would share, for instance, pre-certifications on a daily basis. That would allow us to then parse through those pre-certifications to zero in on redirection opportunities, and then we would message out to that participant about the KPP-free benefit and attempt to engage and redirect them. That's the optimal. We rarely get the optimal if we're bolting onto a BUCA type arrangement. We get no assistance, and that's kind of what we expect, but we function very effectively without the cooperation. Just want to let you know, if you did find an independent TPA that you could work with the bolt-on in conjunction with Kempton, that can work a little bit better. The structure is similar to an integrated HRA. That is kind of the analogy that the FIA group uses for the bolt-on structure. Again, it incorporates by reference all of the ACA mandated provisions and benefits. It incorporates those via reference from the primary plan. The administration is done by a full service TPA, which is Kempton Group. We process the claims. We provide full service concierge and patient advocacy, or in other words, we provide the redirection services. When the patients reach out to the Kempton Group, when they've been told that they needed a procedure, they either call or message the Kempton Group. We do the searching and the connecting them with their free market options that are in their area. We provide full reporting and analytics on the performance and of the redirections, the spend, et cetera, that can then be integrated into an analytics package with the consultant or with the employer. So these claims do not fall into a black hole where they're no longer integrated and they're kind of outside of your normal analytics platform. We don't do that. again, since we're a TPA, we were able to provide full reporting back to the consultant. Also very important with this, and this is where Horan has helped us, is the ongoing patient education and engagement training. It's very important that the patients understand this. We have some competitors that have kind of dumbed this down to the point where it's go here, it's free. We found that employees, that sounds very gimmicky. It also gives them a little bit of an angst of, well, if it's free, it must not be good quality care. So we start talking a little bit about the economics and why a medical provider that is a high quality, in fact, it's only the high quality, really providers that are really confident in their outcomes that will enter into this bundle space. And hopefully Andy Blankmeyer from Beacon can talk a little bit about that. But ongoing patient education and engagement is huge. So how does it work? Real quickly, obviously, we can talk more about this after the call if anybody has additional questions, but a brief go through as far as how it works. The first thing that happens once the program is in place is the employees, usually their primary physician, whoever their attending physician is, they let the patient know that they need a procedure. They've recommended an MRI, or they've said, it's physical therapy wasn't working on that ankle, and I think it's time for surgery. So the patient is made aware that they are in need of a voluntary and elective medical procedure. We don't want to talk to them if it's an emergency or if it's life-threatening, but if it's voluntary and elective, we would love to talk to the patient. When they call into the Kempton Care Advocate, we again will seek to understand what they had prescribed. We're going to want to know as much detail about the procedure that they're needing as possible, and that's when we go through our KPPFree internal search tool to try to connect them with as many options as possible. Usually the patient is going to, if they hear a name that they're familiar with, that's got a great reputation, again, somebody like Beacon Ortho, they'll say, oh, Beacon, I've heard of them. Yeah, if I can get that done for free at Beacon, that'd be wonderful. So then we reach out to Beacon in that example and start the process of scheduling a referral for a surgical consult with Beacon. The last step that we do in our process is we issue what we call a voucher, a patient voucher, kind of like a boarding pass to get on an airplane. That goes to the patient and to the medical provider. The patient shows up, and in order to get the 100% benefit through the KPP-free program, they have to provide that voucher. That's the protection to the employer and really to all parties. Is again, in a bolt-on situation, the patient has got a United Healthcare or a Blue Cross or a, fill in the blank. They've got an insurance card in their pocket. And if they hand that to the KPP-free provider, the chances are great that claim is going to go ahead and get filed with that other TPA. We want to try to prevent that if at all possible. That's why we created the voucher concept. The voucher has the procedure, the date of service, the agreed upon price, the pre-agreed upon price, etc. They walk in at the prescribed time, they hand that voucher, and then that is what tips off the medical provider that claim needs to be filed with the Kempton Group under the KPP-free program. We get that claim in, and we then try to get that claim paid as quickly as possible back to the medical provider. We do not take lightly that the medical provider is really having to take extra steps to, again, aid a bundle and everything else. And so we want to uphold our side of the bargain that this looks cash-like to the medical provider. Some of our results, kind of coming to the end of my piece here, but these are some of the results. These are based on some of our actual paid claims data here at the Kempton Group. MRI, we have seen MRIs, $8,000 MRIs, but we get a 30% discount from the network. Of course, a major joint upper extremity MRI, a good cash price along with the reading, it's coming in around $1,000. Abdominal CT, you can read that. These are more of the common procedures. These are the high volume, relatively low cost procedures. Steroid joint injections, we've seen those over $5,000. The networks get them down to, say, $3,500. A good price that we see every day is, $1,600 through our free market providers. Some of the bigger dollar procedures, this is an example of coronary artery bypass with catheterization. Bill charge $390,000. All that's bundled, so that includes everything. We go back and rebundle everything for comparative purposes. All in, all done, it was about $390,000 worth of bill charges. Average network allowable was $253,000. The KPPFree price offered on a bundled cash pay basis was $50,000. Again, we're doing over 1,000 of these a month now. Been doing it since 2011. I think we're going to hand the slides out, so I'll let you all go over that on your own for time's sake. So maybe if you go to the other. These are just some case studies. The first one is a 1,700 employee life. This is actually our first bolt-on versus the Blue Cross and Blue Shield network allowable. We are not saying that at a low-cost provider, the cash price is better than the Blue Cross allowable. What we are saying, though, is with this program, it provides a very strong incentive for the patient to seek care from a high-value medical provider. Those are the things that the big carrier networks contractually, they just can't do. They just can't provide a cash incentive to stay out of the hospital. In those contracts are volume guarantees to some of the low value medical providers, and this really gets around that. This is an employer that had a 5-to-1 ROI since 2014, $3.2 million worth of savings. That comes from their consultant, not our numbers. 2018, for the year 2018, a 500 life employer, save $1.1 million, 8-to-1 return on investment versus our fees. You see employer 3, employer 4. I think you would look at the ROI and say, well, Jay, you must not be charging enough, but that's actually also part of our mission. We do not charge a percentage of savings. We really have a problem with that. There's a lot of vendors, a lot of TPAs that when they get paid on a percentage of savings, they're actually winning when our clients are losing. Your clients are losing and they're winning. We do charge a flat, we're paid on a flat fee basis for the administration of the Bolt-On program. Again, reward and incent, 100% benefit. Also built into the program is also reasonable travel and lodging, which we handle all of the logistics for travel and lodging. If somebody is having to travel to one of these providers, it is paid for by the plan, but it is handled by the Kempton Group and our care advocates. We make it easy. We have technology, education, and really a very soup to nuts hand-holding approach for this program. Karen, that's about as fast as I can get through this. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Yeah, so I was just here to share some anecdotal stories. I was one of the first at Horan to put this in place with the Cincinnati Zoo, and since I put it in with another client of mine, a couple other account managers have put this in place as well. So just sharing a few stories and kind of my experience with not only the Kempton Group, but also what my clients felt and the employee reaction. So first and foremost, I think just speaking to working with, a lot of different vendors and putting things in place that you may not have done before is always a little bit nerve-wracking. But Kempton Group has been amazing to work with, just a great group, and you can tell that they really thought out this process. At Horan, I think we're always a little bit nervous that somebody may not live up to the standard that we want, so we're very quick to say, you know what, we'll put the communications together, we'll do this, we'll do that. But as I worked with the Kempton Group, they had all of that information. It looks good, it feels good, it's very thorough. So that was a pleasant surprise that we didn't have to really dig in and get our hands dirty like we normally would, because it was all really wrapped up in a nice bow. The other thing that I would share is the implementation process was extremely simple. The paperwork was easy. The clients understood it. There wasn't a whole bunch of back and forth. So that was also very nice. I know one of the things that clients can get upset about is, sign this form, sign that form, here's this one, and then you need this piece. And then after you sign that one, then this one comes. It wasn't like that either. So it was just very simple and straightforward. We really just had a couple implementation calls with my clients to put this in place because it was really that simple. So two great things there. Again, the communications and the implementation was great. Now, from a client experience, during the open enrollment meetings when we rolled this out, we explained this program, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with no matter what it is, you typically only hear the negative at an open enrollment meeting. You're taking away benefits, my deductible's going up, premiums are going up. Even if you have a good message that nothing's changing, premiums may even go down a little bit, it's just kind of ho-hum. Well, when we talked about this program, both of my clients actually have PPO plans. So what they did is they said, if you use this program, we will waive your deductible. So you can imagine that went over extremely well because the deductibles are several thousands of dollars. So the employees immediately perked up. And after the meeting, we actually had a whole bunch of people talking about it and sharing how much of a difference this will make in their lives because it may waive a $3,000 deductible. So they were beyond excited, and it's something that you typically don't see at open enrollment. So it was a really great message to share with the employees. The one group, the zoo, they were the first one to do it. It did take a few months for it to kind of get rolling. As you know, not everybody just goes and has an elective, knee replacement. They need to really have that symptom, if you will, and then actually go and get that. So after a few months, we did see 3 consultations occur and 3 procedures. And when we looked at our data, when you net out any sort of admin fee or per occurrence fee, because there's different setups, the zoo actually saved $74,000 on this program. So you can imagine the zoo was ecstatic that they had that type of savings, but then the employees all saved thousands of dollars themselves by using this program. So they got really good feedback from the people that used it, to HR about how great this program was. So again, you typically only hear the negative. So it was really nice to be able to hear some of the positive feedback going back to HR. The other group, they've kind of latched on even faster. We haven't had a replacement just yet. They just put this in place 7/1, but we've had a good amount of various MRIs and various things such as that. So we're still tracking that, and here we'll do an analysis, I'm sure, 6 months, then a year to see what the savings is. But that one, again, got a lot of good traction. It's actually a car dealership. So during the meetings when we told them that their deductibles would be waived, again, it was a holy cow, I can't believe that, this is amazing. So a lot of good feedback. So that's just a couple things that I wanted to share briefly. Again, great implementation. Kempton Group's been great to work with, very flexible. And again, they've thought all of this out. So I know whenever I do something new that I haven't done before, I get nervous because you don't know what bumps there will be. You're not 100% as to who you're going to be working with. And it's been fantastic. So first implementation, you always expect, a good amount of bumps. There really was hardly any, maybe 1 or 2, which is going to happen with no matter what the implementation is, but nothing major by any means. No angst on the group. And then again, great feedback from the employees. So it's a great benefit. It seems like a win-win. Not only is the employer going to save, but they get to offer a really nice benefit to their employees, and the employees also can save money. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on that, or Jay, if there's anything else that you would like me to share, but that's just some of the firsthand experience that I have had.
No, I think that's great. And Beacon Ortho has been a great addition to this program and really key in the Cincinnati area. So, Andy, if you're on.
All right, thanks, Jay. I hope I'm not echoing. My name is Andy Blankmeyer. I'm the CEO at Beacon Orthopaedics in Cincinnati. We are the largest independent orthopedic group in Cincinnati and the only one with a non-hospital owned or controlled ambulatory surgery center. And so we have always been pitching to employers and to patients a low-cost, high-quality model as we have successfully pulled the vast majority of our volumes out of the health systems that are at a much higher price point. And so working with Horan and Kempton, when the zoo was looking for a solution, it was extremely easy to set up. We created a fee schedule with Kempton that was then replicable for other clients locally. So Steve and his team at Horan can scale it appropriately. And from a provider standpoint, the two biggest things for us is access to information, and obviously then getting paid in an appropriate time frame. And both of those are met by Kempton really well. Like Jay said, we get paid 100% of our allowed amount. There's no deductibles, no coinsurance, so the billing process is extremely easy. We've created contracts with local anesthesia and radiology providers to be a part of the bundle alongside of us. And then from an ease of access from an employer standpoint, we really set up the model with the zoo where we came to the open enrollment meetings and talked a little bit about Beacon and about what we do and how we do it. And I think it really resonated well with the staff. There was one point where, since we're local alongside of them, you never know what kind of feedback you're going to get. But luckily, we had a few employees stand up and reiterate their positive experiences with Beacon in the past and how they were excited about this new model. And from our standpoint, it really goes straight to the core of what we're trying to do, which is direct-to-employer contracting without the headaches of having 100 different fee schedules with 100 different employers to juggle all at once. With Kempton, it's now a plug and play with the different employers locally and regionally to give access to the benefit. So, Steve was talking about the zoo savings. That's great. We win because we get the volume and have a competitive rate. The zoo wins because they get savings, and Horan and Kempton both win as well because they've created a model that is hard to replicate in the fashion that they've built it. So we're excited to be a partner with them. We love the product. We love being able to easily pitch something that's quick to implement because a lot of these employers don't have the information necessary to do actual direct contracting. Instead, they understand the network model better, and Kempton really provides that for us. So it's been a great experience. And Jay, I don't know if you have anything else you want me to add, but I appreciate being able to talk to everybody.
No, Andy, thank you very much. It's important to us. Again, we want Andy and the team at Beacon to take what they've created here, and obviously we want to grow our program and we want to be great partners to the employers, but we also want we encourage providers like Beacon and Surgery Center of Oklahoma and the others to go out and talk to other TPAs, go out and seek out other buyers that are looking to buy on a cash basis, whether it be a union or a self-funded plan or even an individual. But I liked what you said, Andy, that you've kind of created a model, and now it's easier just to kind of take to market. And I really think that's really kind of what we want to see, nationally, throughout the healthcare space. So anyway, unless anybody else wants to add anything, Karen, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, or I think we're kind of at the point for questions if anybody has any.
Everybody.
I think we've unmuted everybody, so hopefully we don't have a bunch of echoing.
Yeah, Jay, I would only just add, if anybody has any questions or is looking for some more information or to get connected, to the group, just reach out to me. I can go into a little bit more detail about some of the programs and how we've worked. There was a lot of communication that happened between, Andy and Horan and Kempton Group during this process as we were getting ready to roll it out. But again, the process was easy. Took good cooperation and a few conversations, but I would say now that we have this program up and running in Cincinnati, we are adding to it all the time. We have clients that are interested and understand it, and we expect it to be something that will continue to grow in our market.
It's exciting for sure.
Yeah, the only other thing, if no one has any questions, I'd just like to thank Jay and Andy and Steve for participating in this. And again, if there's any additional follow-ups, I know we had this to a relatively small group, but if we think that there's interest in bringing this in a broader scale to UBA, I'm sure I could convince Steve and Andy and Jay to maybe make this a little bit bigger presentation. So with that, if no one has any questions, I'll just thank our group and appreciate you participating, and we'll go on from there.
Sounds good. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.